In China, they use AI-generated people to read the network news as if they were humans. So what are we going to do? Just sit around and play pickleball all day?
That's a brave new world. And
Exactly.
by the way, I don't play pickleball. Good afternoon and welcome to the Northpoint of View. I'm here with Dr. Kimsey's. Walter, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Good to be back riding with you.
Yes, it's been too long.
And we take everything seriously except ourselves.
Yeah,
right?
no, we can't. I forgot. Are you heckle or am I heckle?
So, and this is actually something we've touched on about 6 months ago, and I know it's something that you've been following for decades, but it's AI, and it's in the news. We've had a big run on Wall Street with
NVIDIA.
NVIDIA's been the big one. Everybody's talking about AI right now. For the record, will you just give us some context on what AI really is and what it's not?
I will. I have to go back to '93, which was the last time I played with genetic algorithms. They've been around very, very long time.
That's 3 decades.
Yeah. And, back then I had an 8086 machine with about 10 megabyte storage.
Okay.
So if you got anything to run at all, you were really good at programming. And that was what I did.
Yeah.
But you couldn't make anything really work. It was terrible. And recently I sat through a seminar by some, advanced data scientist, and I was stunned. Okay, so they're chaining genetic algorithms together, but outside of that, what they're calling machine learning, etc., stuff we were doing in the 80s and 90s.
Right.
The intellectual development behind AI is this much.
Right.
The computer physical capacity to store data, to quickly manipulate data, to quickly transmit data is this much.
Right.
And so what's happened, what AI really is us building the physical capacity to be able to do what we could back then. I am totally unimpressed, and I feel that there's a lot of conning going on with AI.
Yeah.
Okay, there have been developments, don't get me wrong, but the way it's presented in the press, in the promotion literature, management consulting firms with their, AI people who are going to improve your supply chain, my goodness, oh man, when, at first you practice to deceive. So the reality is we're getting there. And for example, when you look at automation in the warehouse, I've seen automation equipment get torn out of warehouses
Right.
because it was hurting the workers, physically injuring them.
Yeah.
Automated forklifts which went berserk and ran into cafeterias and hurt workers who were having coffee or lunch. You pick a narrow range of goods, you can program the machines to do that, and they will do a fantastic job. But if you think that the automation in a warehouse or et cetera is going to replicate a human, meaning you can just take what does this and add this range to it, you find out the hard way it doesn't work. And of course, then you get stupid senior management who says, tear it all out, none of it works. It's not true. A lot of it works, but the idea of AI, like Isaac Asimov and iRobot and those kinds of things, not there.
Right.
And then when you talk real AI, you need to define it. I am a Ray Kurzweil aficionado, addict, whatever you want to call it, but his website is awesome. I mean, when he talks about people who they put a prosthetic arm on them, they wire it to the brain, they put a little chip in the brain and a little chip here, and they talk to each other. And somebody can do with their hands just as much as I'm doing, or maybe even play guitar. That's what I'm thinking about. That's impressive.
That's significant.
And he says, I can't remember whether it's 2040 or 2045, we will get to the point where the machines will not only repair themselves, but they will invent themselves. They'll see a need and they will design something that can fulfill that need. And when that happens, that's what he refers to as the singularity. And as you told me before, we don't do spoilers. Buy the book, The Singularity by Isaac Asimov. It's a great reading, especially for the quiet holiday period. And that's what I'm looking for. And we are not there yet. I read articles in the press, FT, Wall Street Journal, whatever. The write-up makes it sound like we're already there, and it's not.
But we're not.
Yeah, and I think we're progressing there. I think there have been great advances, so don't get me wrong, but it's being sold as being here when in fact it's there.
They're really selling the promise, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when it gets to NVIDIA, that's very interesting. I mean, clearly, this is a mechanical technological advance. In terms of programming technology, I haven't looked into it enough, but from what I've heard and read so far, Walter is not impressed.
Well, I think that, the fact, it's interesting to me to see how much conversation there is sort of around something that you would see as very simplistic, like the chat GPT, or the guy on the commercial right now who's like, yo, boss, thinking about, zhizhing it up a little bit. And next thing you know, you get this paragraph, and the guy gets a promotion, and he's like, living his best life now. Which is sort of maybe all that the common consumer can visualize at this point, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about mass marketing.
Oh, exactly. I mean, you talk about software code, and it's a meaningless concept to them.
Right.
I completely agree with you.
But
But I do use ChatGPT. I use it to check my work. I've used it before. I was going to write a talk for the agricultural industry, and I said, so what matters to the agricultural industry? And it wrote a very nice paper, but the one thing it didn't mention was transportation.
Right.
And the majority of the price you pay for food is transportation cost. And ChatGPT, way over its head. Didn't even come close. So it's good to check your work, but
right.
And at the U.S. Department of Transportation, the Transportation Research Bureau said, if you get caught using AI to write anything or do any research, you're terminated and you'll be outed. And friends of mine at companies that I partner with a lot to do projects, the chief economist there called the staff together and said, if I catch you, you're done. Right then and there, you are done. Because why would you pay him to do consulting work, original thinking, and you give them the client something they could have done themselves?
Well, it's boilerplate.
Exactly.
But it's not filling in with the salient information points, right?
Exactly.
And so the two things, one, the fact that as more people engage in the process, it'll push the product to be better.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that's why I use it. I'd like to see it get, be better.
I had an instance, it was, I think about a month ago, when we were investigating sort of the context of some of the work we were doing in Africa with our nonprofit. And I was talking with my daughter about sort of a long-range project of getting sort of the background on where every country on the continent of Africa was in terms of political stability. And I just sort of threw it out there, like, over the next couple of months, while we have time, let's gather this information, that information. Well, the next morning she sent me a report, and she had used ChatGPT.
Uh-oh.
And there were gaps, right? Mm-hmm. But the fact that we had a framework from which to work in a matter of minutes rather than months was amazing.
But here's the scary part. What was missing in that report?
Yeah. Well,
you don't know.
Exactly.
Okay, and
there were things that you could see And then there were things you couldn't see, right?
Yeah.
And then some of the information was just inaccurate.
But to get you started, man, it's a great tool in that sense. But getting promoted as an employee of a company, no, I think ChatGPT will get you fired.
Yeah, that's a
Exact
good
opposite.
point.
I mean, you look, if I pay you good money, like in my case, I get paid, $400 an hour as a consultant. I'm making that up. I just, I like that number.
You get paid more than that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, $500 an hour. And then what do? I turn around and I use ChatGPT. Oh my goodness, that's an arbitrage. I mean, hell, then a 10-year-old could be doing what I'm doing and getting $500. No, come on, think about it. The economics doesn't hold water.
But there have been points along the way where, these things don't move in a linear fashion, right? You'll
No.
have a discovery and then all of a sudden a big jump, right?
Exactly. Like I had a PhD student of mine. He asked me to kind of chair his dissertation at Rutgers. Super bright guy. And I had tried during all my academic career to build a model of the economy in 3 dimensions, meaning you had the land area and then you had the economy. And so the use of land drives a lot more of economic outcomes than your average economist understands.
Right.
They use these aggregated macro data points and they talk about GDP. I don't know what GDP is. What I do know is that it's produced in farms and factories, et cetera, and they're located here, here, and here. And they don't locate there instead of over here because the transportation's too expensive. I wanted to understand that. And I tried. That's why I was screwing around with AI back in the early 90s. And I couldn't get it to work. I had this stupid HP calculator of a computer. So Dr. Rizvani, he's now Dr. Rizvani, he came along and he goes, you don't understand the cloud. So he had to teach me the cloud. Now this is going back 10, 12 years, so most people hadn't heard of the cloud. I wasn't that stupid, but he explained the cloud. And then how do you access it quickly and how do you pull stuff back quickly? And how there's no storage limit. And then you can get an account with Microsoft where all of the software of Microsoft is available to you and you're paying like a cent an hour or something like that. And I signed up for my, Microsoft, and all of a sudden, I was a powerful dude, Yeah. So that's great. But then when you go look at the applications and the programs, it's very familiar to me because I played with this stuff 30 years ago. So what does impress me is the advances we're making in autonomous vehicles.
Right.
Now, that really requires the intellectual capital component of automation to really be expanded. And I haven't had time to take a look at that very closely or talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about. There's a lot of goofballs out there. Oh, L1 cars, L2, L5, shut up.
But there's a big commitment. I mean,
that is a big commitment.
Mr. Musk is pushing the envelope here, right?
He has a lot of very, very smart people spending a lot of hours improving the algorithms and finding other ways to detect the world. I'm an advisor to a technology company that does supply chain, technology. And the way they can perceive where your container is and where it's going to be next, et cetera, their AI, it's very impressive.
I think about that linkage when you finally get that last component and all of a sudden you launch a company like Uber.
Yes.
Right.
Well, which, if you remember in the early days, there was a learning curve.
Yeah, but what that's done to sort of, facilitate a lot of change in the way that people live and work right now and eat.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that is, so the Uber is not as much of a technological advance, which it really is, but as much as it is a change in economic organization.
Right.
So, my pet peeve is, I want to know what's going on in retail. So I open the Wall Street Journal, and who do they talk about? Amazon, Walmart, because they're big companies. What percentage of U.S. retail sales are they? big cap companies, but 60% of the containers that move in and out of ports, that move into ports that are for imported goods, they're really small companies you've never heard of before.
Right.
Like the lady who sells African sandals in Atlanta. She does 3 containers a year. Okay, you never really hear about her. So how do you connect all of these little suppliers and little customers together? And this is what I call the networked economy. When I lived in New Jersey, you had to have friends, because we'd finish up work late, we'd go to a dinner, and you had a couple glasses of wine, maybe lots of glasses of wine. You get on the train and fall asleep, and you wake up 3 stops after your stop. Now, my friends couldn't call their wives because they were too embarrassed. I couldn't call my wife because she was her back was hurt and she couldn't drive. But I had to have friends. So you pick up the phone, you call, and you never had to be embarrassed. You just pick up the phone and go, Mark, I'm over here in Whitefield Station. You think you could give me a ride? And, it's like 12:30.
I'm on the way.
Yeah, he goes, I'll see you in a minute, because next week it could be him calling me. And so it was a network of us. We were kind of like the early version, the primitive version of Uber. Okay, no questions asked. You stumbled into your friend's car. The only deal was, if you're drunk enough to throw up in the car, don't call.
Don't call.
All right, you just stay there, man.
Not
Sleep
driving
on the
you.
bench. Don't. So that was our
network.
early. Eventually, I found a couple of cards on the telephones in the train stations. But when you called them at 12:30 at night, and they go, "Oh yeah, for $100 I can give you $100." Hey, Mark, that changed. And so what they did is they found all these people who had nothing better to do than give somebody a ride, and they found all these people who needed a ride, and there is a platform that connects them. And so people call this platform economics. Another good book you might want to read, go on Amazon, type platform economics. There's like 3 dozen of them. Consultants they write more than they add value, but buy one of those books and read it. All right, see which one has 5 stars.
Where you match the mega trend with the technology.
Exactly. So you look at these big ocean carriers. They are great at taking care of the big importers. But when it comes to the Kempsey's bait shop, they could care less about me. So I go to a freight forwarder. Freight forwarder's like, yeah, okay, we'll help you out. That's what we do. But it costs me more per container than it costs Walmart. It sucks. So the world has always been about big. You get really big, everybody loves you. When I worked at UBS, I got tons of free hotel rooms, free meals at fabulous restaurants. When I joined the port industry, that was gone. I show up at the same hotel, they're like, who the hell are you? I'm with Moffitt. No, they go, we've never heard of them. And so things change. And what this is doing, the Uberization of the economy, too bad if they get upset over me calling it that, is that all of a sudden the little can blossom.
Yeah.
In the old days, you started a Beanie Baby business, you spent 10 years just selling it in Savannah before you opened a shop in Charleston, and then one in Raleigh. And okay, today, you open up your shop, you're selling them in Savannah. Hey, this works. Get a website. Next thing you know, you're mailing it all over the country, and now you're a national business overnight.
Right.
So, I'm still trying to get my head around this. And what a hell of a curve that is.
Yeah, and I think that over the next couple of years, with the amount of focus and investment in AI, we're gonna, and it's coming from different angles, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so you've got collaboration, you've got a market that's almost endless, right?
Right.
And so the first one to the finish line takes home a big prize.
So our next video, we have to warn people to put the razor blades away, stay away from open windows, because we got to talk about what happens to us the day the singularity occurs.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I think about that a lot. It's like, so what jobs will be left? Well, there'll be one job is to babysit the technology, make sure it doesn't go a little crazy and say, kill the humans. And that's already happened a couple of times with ChatGPT or these AI programs.
Yeah.
You get into an argument with it and it goes, you should die. I just read another article about that. And the guy who got that message back from the AI application went, oh my gosh, and called Google or whoever it was. And So,
Boundaries.
yes, so we need somebody to babysit this stuff, okay?
Yeah.
And then the other thing would be content creators, because since the machines are going to grow the food and prepare the food and feed us the food, all right, then what's left? Well, you need people to be to tell stories, make up stories, tell stories, and even there, the AIs, already, like in China, they use AI-generated people to read the network news as if they were humans. So. What are we going to do? Just sit around and play pickleball all day?
That's a brave new world. And by the
Exactly.
way, I don't play pickleball.
I watch people play pickleball.
Not a player.
No.
Hey, Walter, great
Right,
being
man.
with you, man.
Good seeing you, Mark.
Yeah, thanks so
Take
much.
care, bud.
See you guys.